I'm going to be talking today about the transition theory by F.F. Mallias. And the transition theory is actually a middle theory. It was not in our textbook. So I'm hoping that this is something that you guys will find useful. A brief overview of what I'll be going over is basically the importance of the transition theory, the role of F.F. Mallias in developing that, and then the purposes and uses, as well as some of the strengths and weaknesses. F.F. Mallias was born May 27, 1942. She started nursing in Egypt in 1953, which is also where she was born. She earned her PhD in nursing science in the 1980s, and she created the transition model in 1995. She's since had extensive publications, with her first major publication occurring in the mid-1990s. She has held various academic positions, one of which was as the Dean of the University of Pennsylvania School of Nursing. She held that from 2010 to 2015. And she's had fellowships, including one with the American Academy of Nursing, which she had in 2005, and the Institute of Medicine, which she held in 2010. She's been active in research and advocacy post-academia, and as of 2023, she remains a pivotal figure in nursing research and patient-centered care transitions. As I mentioned, the transition theory was developed by F.F. Mallias in 1995. It addresses patient care during critical transitions, and it covers changes in health, roles, or settings. The three core elements of the transition theory are process, conditions, and outcomes. And one of the main things is that it enables a holistic view of patient experiences. The transition theory holds significant importance in the nursing field due to its emphasis on patient-centered care during transitions, and it equips nurses with the understanding and tools to anticipate potential challenges, create individualized care plans, and ensure effective communication among healthcare providers. This leads to improved quality of care, more favorable health outcomes, and greater patient satisfaction. The theory is applicable in a variety of healthcare settings, making it a versatile guide for managing patient care. And if you look at the chart that's on the screen, you can see along the bottom of the chart, you've got preventative and therapeutic nursing interventions. And that this is important because we can do preventative interventions if we catch things early and we assess for things early. But if we are unable to do that, there are the therapeutic patterns of response that we can engage in. But essentially, the importance of the theory is that a transition occurs with a trigger, whether that's developmental, situational, health, illness related, or organizational. Developmental being, from going from a preteen to an adult or growing into old age. Situational being a divorce or going back to grad school or whatever that might be. Health illness meaning someone's diagnosed with a chronic illness or an illness that's going to cause them to eventually pass away. And then organizational can be like a familial organization, a organization of where you work, and so forth. The properties involved in that are time span, process, disconnectedness, awareness, and critical points. And then you've got your different conditions that pair into that, and then the patterns of response. And ultimately, we want a good response or a good outcome, but the patterns of response are divided into two columns, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. So it's important to recognize, if you look at our little cartoon here, on the left-hand side of that, which might be your right, I'm not sure, but you'll see the vertical line, which is performance, and then you have your horizontal line, which is time. And we have our little cartoon character who is, chugging along, life is great, and then all of a sudden a triggering event occurs, causing them to have, your basic denial and fear, resistance and anger, and so forth. What's important is that we're doing assessment through this whole phase. And it's important that we start collaborating. So the transition model is not one-dimensional. it's important that we realize that as nurse practitioners or PMHMPs, we are just one facet of supporting patients. There are other avenues like, counseling, physical therapy, resources available in the community. So it's important to collaborate with other professionals, but also with family members and community members that can help support someone that's going through a hard time. It's also important that we are educating and empowering our patients and their support network so that people know what to expect, what to look for, and also how to support throughout the whole journey, and then ultimately getting them to that point where they are committed and they feel confident in their new version of self. It's also very important throughout this whole transition period that we are very sensitive to cultural aspects that can be coming into play with this. The focuses of the theory start with the process of transitions. The theory looks at transition as a process that takes place over time and involves a shift from one life phase, condition, or status to another. This could involve a range of situations, such as transitioning from illness to health, adapting to a new life role like becoming a parent, or moving from one care setting to another. The transition theory considers the various conditions and influences that affect how a transition unfolds. These can be personal, societal, or environmental, and may either facilitate or hinder a successful transition. Conditions include the individual's level of preparedness, their socioeconomic status, and their cultural beliefs, among other things. The theory places great emphasis on outcomes of transitions. These outcomes can be either healthy or unhealthy, and they are typically characterized by levels of well-being, levels of control, and the ability to manage new or changed roles, relationships, expectations, and responsibilities. The transition theory also takes a systems perspective, recognizing that transitions don't occur in isolation. They are influenced by the interplay of various systems, such as healthcare systems, family systems, and societal systems. The theory highlights the relational aspects of transitions, and it underscores the importance of relationships and interactions with healthcare providers, family members, and others in influencing the process and outcomes. The theory acknowledges the significance of developmental transitions, such as moving from adolescence to adulthood or transitioning into old age. These transitions often come with changes in roles and expectations requiring individuals to adapt and adjust. Some of the clinical strengths of the transition theory include individualized care planning, why this is great is because it tailors care to unique experiences and needs of each patient, facilitating more patient-centric care. It allows for a holistic approach, promoting a comprehensive assessment, looking beyond physiological needs to encompass psychological, social, and cultural facets of the patient's experience. It improves communication, aiding in healthcare providers talking to each other and understanding and addressing the concerns and experiences of patients. It is great with multidisciplinary collaboration, enhanced patient education, better post-transition outcomes. It's proactive at barrier identification, and it's adaptable in the sense that with its broad scope, the theory is relevant across various clinical settings and patient populations. It is great with support system integration, recognizing that the role of families and social support networks are important to the care process. It is all about patient empowerment. It places an emphasis on empowering patients to become self-managers and active participants of their healthcare transition and managing the risks before they escalate. It provides criteria and a framework for evaluating the success or challenges of transition, aiding in continuous care improvement. It allows for cultural sensitivity. By considering cultural facets of transitions, it promotes more cultural competent care. And then predictive abilities, it offers clinicians insight into potential future needs or challenges patients might face, allowing for anticipatory interventions. And it encourages a seamless transition between different different care settings or health statuses, ensuring that care is continuous and consistent. So the role of the theorist, Afaf Malayas was instrumental in developing, refining, and expanding the transition theory. She had a deep understanding of nursing science and patient care, and she brought that breadth of knowledge into her theory and her research. She continues to enhance the theory by incorporating new research, keeping the theory relevant. As far as my analysis goes, the origins of the theory, Elias's insights formed its foundation. Its central theme is that nurses assisting patients during significant changes. Core concepts are the three pillars, which are the nature of transitions, influencing conditions, and the resulting outcomes. Nature meaning pinpointing the specific change, conditions meaning determining factors aiding or hindering the transition, outcomes meaning reflecting the success or the adaptation. The theory is methodically structured. It highlights the interplay of multiple factors during transition. It has a systemic approach, identifying the change, understanding its influence, and aiming for positive results. It's applicable in various nursing scenarios. It tailors patient care during critical transition phases, and it recognizes influencing conditions and enables targeted interventions. It's adaptable across numerous transitional situations. It's very versatile in diverse healthcare settings. It's comprehensive, capturing nuances of transition, and some may critique that it's too vast, but its depth ensures thorough patient care. And it is subjected to rigorous research evaluations, proven to be predictive and explanatory. Some of the strengths of this theory are the holistic perspective, the patient-centered care, the applicability, interdisciplinary approach, and its research utility. Some of the weaknesses include the complexity. It's thorough, but it can be intricate. It's not always practical, especially like in urgent care settings. It lacks specific guidelines. It only provides broad strokes without step-by-step directions, and it may lead to varied interpretations and practices. Its potential for varied interpretations. The environmental factors, it might miss key environmental influences, and it underplays elements like community support or transit accessibility. It focuses on individual accountability, and this can be a positive or a negative, depending on the patient and the transition or situation that they're going through. Obviously, the end goal is that someone is able to get through a transition and at the end be able to self-manage and to be thriving, but sometimes putting individual responsibility on someone that's already feeling really overwhelmed might not be the best idea. It can be challenging to measure. Outcomes can be subjective. Assessing the theory's real-world impact can be tricky due to personal metrics. So as far as the applicability of this, as DMPs, it'll help us be able to identify individuals undergoing transitions, whether they are developmental, situational, or health illness related. This helps customizing care plans to address specific transition types. DMPs can educate patients about the nature of their transition, potential challenges, and coping mechanisms. It provides DMPs with a framework to measure the outcomes of interventions, allowing them to evaluate the effectiveness of care plans and adjust as necessary. It also will help with policy and practice guidelines, intraprofessional collaboration. Research-wise, DMP professionals involved in research can use the transition theory as a foundation for studies that explore patient experience during transition, test interventions, or evaluate the effectiveness of transition-focused programs. As far as advocacy goes, it helps because we can advocate for the recognition of transitions and patient care at both institutional and policy levels, ensuring that the healthcare system is more attuned to the challenges patients face during critical transition periods. It is helpful in professional development and training. because DNPs involved in education or mentoring roles can introduce the transition theory to nurses and other healthcare providers, emphasizing its importance and application in clinical practice. As far as community and outreach engagement, for DNPs working in the community health settings, the transition theory can be used to develop outreach programs that support individuals undergoing significant or health challenges. Despite the limitations, the benefits with this are immense, and I think it's a great springboard for us as DNPs, especially those that are going to continue their research. My personal impression is I have personally seen the lack of transitional support. My husband just retired from the military after 27 years of service, and there really wasn't a lot of warning as to what that might be like for him, especially taking his first job in the civilian sector. It was pretty hard on him, having something that you've committed your life to all of a sudden not be there, as well as that brotherhood and that community that you've come to rely on, was rough on him. As a spouse, I really wasn't educated on what that could mean for me and how I could best support him. So I have seen the lack of assessing transition and transitional support, as well as just education, missing from something as commonplace as military transition to civilian life. So I think it's important that as we go into practice, we realize that it's not just a physiological or a mental health perspective. It's, what transitions can this patient be going through in the future? What are they going through now? How are they adapting? Do they have issues with adapting to new situations? Do they feel confident? Do they need more support? It's important that we ask those questions and that we get a more succinct view of what they're going through and how we can best support them and help them through a transition. Questions that I have are, how do you think the theory can be adapted to suit various healthcare settings and patient populations? And then what are some potential challenges you foresee in implementing the theory in your practice? And how do you plan on addressing them? Thank you for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Here are my references.